I know I have the power to correctly predict the 10 qualifiers from each semi-final due to my visions. I'm actually getting one right now. I'm seeing a moose dry humping while listening to his favorite jazz song. Well, I never said the visions were useful, did I? Welcome back to another video on the ESC Harry channel. I hope you're all doing very well indeed. Today, I will be predicting the 10 qualifiers from semi-final 1. I hope you all had a wonderful pre-party season watching hopefully some of your favourites perform live. I was at the London Eurovision party. A couple of you actually said hello to me, a couple of fans from ESC Harry. I'm very much appreciative of that. But now the pre-party season is over, which means interviews are on pause for a couple weeks, which means we're going to miss out on such deep meaning questions such as, tell us about the song, and do you have Pinterest? But now we have heard most of the acts perform live and we are a couple weeks away from rehearsals starting. Now seems like a great time for me to start my official before show predictions. Now for this episode, I will be ranking semi-final 1 in terms of most likely to qualify to least likely to qualify. To clarify, these are not the positions I think every country will finish in. For example, my 7th most likely to qualify, I do not necessarily think will finish exactly in 7th place. This is more my own odds as to who I think is going to be most likely to least likely. You know how roughly prediction videos work. You should do at this point. You're a smart audience. And this goes for both my prediction videos, this one and the semi-final 2 video that will come out in the next couple days. Obviously, some of you would have seen my 5 shocking moments I think could happen at Eurovision. They might play into my semi-final predictions, but they don't necessarily have to. At the end of the day, those 5 things would be shocking moments. They're not necessarily the most likely things to happen. With all that admin out the way, make sure to like this video if you enjoy it, subscribe if you're new to ESC Harry, and comment down below who are your 10 predicted qualifiers for Eurovision 2025 semi-final 1. With that being said, let's get predicting. So kicking us off, the country I think is most likely to qualify from semi-final 1 is Sweden. I know, such a shocking take. I've really gone bold with this one. I'm sure there were many gasps when I said Sweden would be the most likely to qualify from semi-final 1. But in all seriousness, there isn't really much to analyse here in terms of why I think Sweden are going to qualify or not. It's first in the odds, it's got a very catchy song that's incredibly popular across the world, across all social media platforms. And on top of that, it has an amazing theming and staging that will likely be replicated to a certain degree on the stage in Basel. And to top it all off, it is Sweden. They have a really good qualification record. They've qualified for every final since 2010. So them not making the final is like me not saying a good joke. Don't disagree with that point. My second most likely country to qualify from semi-final 1 is Ukraine. Now, truthfully, from this point on, there isn't any countries that are as certain to qualify from semi-final 1 as Sweden. That doesn't mean, though, that these countries are borderline by any chance. It's just Sweden is miles ahead of everyone else in terms of my personal perception on who's going to qualify from the semi-final. I would say numbers 2, 3, and 4 in my prediction are fairly similar in terms of my qualification odds for all of them. The reason I have Ukraine over the next 2 countries you're going to hear is a few things. Number 1, Ukraine are one of 2 countries that have a 100% qualification record for the final, the other being Luxembourg, but I mean, Ukraine have done it since 2003. Luxembourg have had one year where they've had to go through semi-finals. One record's a little bit more impressive than the other, that's all I'm saying. And 2, the other reason, as it will come down to with a lot of these songs, is it's just a good quality entry. I would say that this one in particular over a lot of other songs has grown on me the most, this being Ziffelblatt with Bird of Prey. And in particular, the revamp has added a little bit more anthemicness, a bit more energy, and a little bit more moment making that I think can easily translate onto the stage in Basel. This is the kind of song that I think will definitely stand out in the semi-final with its mix of indie rock and anthemic sound. And on top of that, if there is any country that you can be certain will put some damn good staging in Eurovision, it is Ukraine. And I expect them to elevate significantly from Vidbeer and be a safe qualifier from semi-final 1. The third most likely country to qualify from this semi-final, in my opinion, is... Sorry, I didn't have any coffee for this bit. Estonia! Now, I feel like there's a decent amount of Eurovision fans that would not have Tommy Cash with Espresso Macchiato in the final at all, let alone third most likely to qualify from the semi-final. That being said, this kind of entry does feel like it's going to appeal more to a televote-only audience and a casual Eurovision fan base that, in some cases, does watch Eurovision for these kind of entries. And I feel like since the first week of drama with the combination of his mess staging from Esti Lau and his song with Jos Klein saying some not family-friendly words about the EBU, that the negative reception around Tommy Cash has decreased somewhat, and we have seen within the pre-parties that I think he's willing to work with the Eurovision fans and also try his best to do the best possible job in Basel. And to reiterate a point I made earlier about the televote-only system, this is a wacky song. This is going to stand out completely in the semi-final. So while it doesn't even have Latvia or Lithuania that can vote for it in its Baltic region, this will have a lot of fans, and especially because Tommy Cash is quite a famous artist, I can see him breezing through to the final on Saturday. The fourth most likely country to qualify from semi-final 1, in my opinion, is the Netherlands. Weirdly enough, the first song that will perform in the second half of this semi-final, the reasons I think Claude with C'est la vie will qualify for the final are fairly simple: musical quality and staging. In a semi-final that is filled with unique and alternative styles of music, Claude's fairly simple but really high quality pop song will stand out and have its general audience across multiple countries voting in the semi-final. And on top of his late running order slot, which will help in a televote only system, if his staging is anything as good as the Dutch TV performance we saw a couple weeks ago, then this is going to be one of the best stagings in Eurovision this year. The only reason I've got it as low as 4 compared to like Ukraine and Estonia is we've seen the stagings with them, and with Ukraine, for example, we have a history of their stagings being excellent. Netherlands doesn't quite have that reputation, but easily this song could finish above those two and take a very comfortable slot in Saturday's final. The fifth most likely country to qualify from the semi-final is Albania. Now, there are some people that might think Albania's chances of qualifying for the final are even higher than what I have got them. However, if you have seen my 5 shocking moments that could happen video, you are aware I'm not as confident about Albania this year at Eurovision compared to some other Eurovision fans. That being said, one thing I did say was almost a certainty in that video was Albania is going to qualify, and I do believe that Škodra Elektronike will do that. Albania is bringing a unique and quality package which will have an ethnic feel that should appeal to the likes of Croatia and Slovenia, who can vote in the semi-final. Plus, you've got countries like Italy, which have a big Albanian diaspora and should give them some high points. On top of that, Beatrice, one of the singers in Škodra Elektronike, is one of 2 female singers in this semi-final that is actually competing in this semi-final, the other being Poland, who is performing in slot 2. Albania are performing in slot 12, which means there are 9 countries in between that are all male that are competing in semi-final 2. That's not even factoring in the automatic qualifiers that will be in between Poland and Albania. So for anyone that wanted to hear female singers on Tuesday night, they will hear Albania and think, finally, this is what I wanted, and then all of a sudden they will get a lot more support, along with the fact that it is just a really good quality entry that people will enjoy and hopefully get Albania back into the final after a year away from it in 2024. Only 5 more slots to go now, and in the 6th most likely slot to qualify from semi-final 1, I have the other female in the semi-final, Poland. Now, I am fully aware that Justyna has been put in the slot of death in this semi-final, but also I kind of don't think that's going to matter. Justina is the only true girl sleigh bop in this semi-final, and while they can be a little bit hit or miss in the final itself, they are quite reliable for qualifying out of the semi-finals. On top of that, it is a fairly popular song. It has high energy, high entertainment value in the performance, and it is incredibly catchy and should blow people away from slot 2. Also, while they didn't necessarily turn up for Luna the Tower last year, Poland are one of those countries in Eurovision that tends to have a big diaspora voting power, regardless of the nations. I know the UK is not in this semi-final, which would have helped them out a little bit. However, there is still enough diaspora to vote for this, and with Gaia having a more ethnic feel, more Polish feel, compared to other Polish entries in the past, that should be more than enough to convince Polish diaspora around Europe and even the rest of the world can vote in this, to vote for them and get Poland into the final on Saturday. Okay, going into these final 4, truly it is a little bit more unsure. I'm fairly confident on the first 6 I said. From this point on, I'm a little bit hesitant for various reasons. With that being said, the 7th most likely qualifier, in my opinion, from semi-final 1 is Norway.
I'll be my own lighter. Nothing can burn me now. I'll be my own lighter.
Now, for a few people, Carl Alessandro with Lighter will be a fairly certain qualifier, and I do understand that to an extent. After all, if his performance is anything like we saw on MGP, it will be slick, it will be highly choreographed, and like the Netherlands, it will appeal to people looking for that general pop sound that has an audience from the get-go, because it's Eurovision at the end of the day. It's known for its pop music. On top of that, Norway being a Nordic country will likely mean Sweden and Iceland, for example, will give them some high televotes from the off. That being said, the reason I have a little bit of pause about this qualifying compared to the previous 6 entries I mentioned is Kyle's running order. Kyle has been put in the earliest possible slot in the second half of semi-final 1, and early slots in the second half of semi-finals are usually reserved for entries that aren't necessarily going to be more likely to qualify compared to other songs. Now, there is every chance that they are switching up the formula this year, and to be fair, performing right after Portugal, a more mellow song, will help Kyle in terms of the fact that Lighter is a more up-tempo sound. That being said, it is also performing right before Belgium, which, due to its high-pitched vocals and just more wow moments, you could argue, could drown out Norway a little bit. At the very least, I feel those songs are going to overlap in terms of fandom, and I don't know why the EBU has put them back-to-back, to be honest. That being said, I think because of my previous points and the fact that Norway do know how to put through an entry like this to the final, they have a really good qualification streak, after all, qualifying for every year since 2016. I feel like there is enough positives in there to make sure that Kyle makes the final. And truly, overall, I can't quite see a world where Norway does not qualify for the final. My 8th most likely qualifier from semi-final 1 is Belgium. Oh, I really want to be more confident on this one. I really do. But there are some hesitancies. In my opinion, Belgium this year are sending a high energy, high quality song in Red Sebastian with strobe lights. That certainly has its standout factors looking at the national final performance, from the elevated stage to just the red flashing lights that happen during the drop. And on top of that, we have seen, because of his national final performance, that Red Sebastian can sing and hits those high notes, something that was a concern with Myst last year, which at the end of the day contributed to him failing to qualify for the final. That being said, linking to Myst last year, Belgium do have a little bit of a reputation of sending a good quality pop song but ending up flopping in the actual contest. Look at the likes of Senek in 2018 and of course the aforementioned Myst in 2024. On top of that, Belgium have been arguably given the worst running order slot in the second half, performing right after Norway, which, as we mentioned, there's going to be a little bit of an overlap in terms of male pop. And overall, I would say its main competitor in this semi-final in terms of the high-pitched notes and just the overall song feel is Cyprus. And Cyprus are closing semi-final 1 compared to Belgium, who's right in the middle. So overall, despite me not mentioning Cyprus yet, maybe I'll mention them later, maybe I won't. If they come with a really good package because they're closing the show, then all of a sudden Belgium becomes a little bit less of a main focus for the fans. That being said, despite a lot of people I've seen tipping Belgium to be a shock non-qualifier, I do think that they are going to be in the 10 in the end through the combination of likely a good enough staging, hopefully a good enough staging, come on Belgium, do not do a bad staging again, and Red Sebastian's unique look and vocals, which should help him just get over the line, even though I'd like to be a little bit more confident with this prediction. So now there are only 2 spots left in the ESC Harry predicted 10 qualifiers, and this is where it gets really, really tricky, that these could alternate, especially after I see some performances. Yeah, this one might easily change when I redo this ranking and prediction in Basel when I see the live performances. That being said, for the moment, my 9th most likely qualifier from semi-final 1 is Cyprus. Now, full disclosure, Theo Evan with the song Shh would have likely not been in my 10 predicted qualifiers before I saw the running order. Mainly because if I was ranking these songs in terms of song quality and nothing else, Cyprus would not be in the top 10 for the semi-final for me. I think it is quite weak, quite generic, and other songs do this sound a little bit better. On top of that, Theo Evan is one of the few artists that has not done pre-parties this year, and because he did not win a national final and was selected internally, we have very little knowledge on how well he can perform this song live. There are some high notes in this. If he cannot hit them, then all of a sudden, this is going to be a struggle to qualify. That being said, the key tipping point at the end of the day is the fact this is closing the semi-final. This year, the stage director for Cyprus is Sergio Hayen, who has only done 1 Eurovision staging before, but it was quite a good one. So there has been a lot of speculation, and I tend to agree with this, that the EBU have seen Sergio's plans for Cyprus and thought this could make a really good closer. And if the staging is really good for this, then all of a sudden a lot of other factors that could come into play for qualification do go out the window, and Cyprus becomes a lot higher in the odds. The one other pause I will give it that is running order based that I do want to mention is this is performing right after the host entry in Switzerland. Now, obviously quite a curious choice that they've put an automatic qualifier that late in the running order. However, this could actually hurt Cyprus from the perspective of if people think that the show is over because they've seen the host nation perform and aren't aware about the changes in terms of automatic qualifiers performing during the songs, then people might zone out for Cyprus and just already have their favorites they want to vote for. That being said, I don't think enough people will necessarily think that, and while vocals are a big factor into the qualification chances or not, I'm going to err on the side of caution and optimism and say that the running order slot and hopefully really good staging will be enough to put Cyprus into the final. And then there was 1 slot left for who I think is qualifying for the final from semi-final 1. Before I get on to that one, I'm just going to go through a few of my non-qualification predictions. For me, the 15th most likely country to qualify from this semi-final is Portugal. In 14th, I have Croatia. And in 13th, I have Slovenia. Those 3, while none are dead on arrival by any means, I think are the least likely to qualify from this semi-final, leaving 3 countries being Azerbaijan, Iceland, and San Marino, all of which I think have a very realistic and decent chance of qualifying from this semi-final. That being said, the country I think will just tip over the edge into Saturday's show is Iceland. Now you might think because I am well known to like Cyprus's entry that this is a very biased pick. Now I have to tell you, that is far from the truth. How dare you accuse me of doing something like that? But in all seriousness, while I do really like Iceland's entry with Vibe and Roa, I do think that there is a path to the final that potentially the Eurovision odds currently aren't seeing. For me, Iceland has a lot of qualities which should work in a televote-only system. It has some potential neighbour voting from countries such as Norway and Sweden. It has high energy, high entertainment value in its performance, which will likely be fairly similar to the Song for Kepler performance, hopefully just elevated a little bit. And on top of that, it is opening the semi-final, which I actually think in Iceland's case will be helpful. A lot of people use Eurovision as an escapism from the drama and the chaos of the main world. I know I definitely do to an extent. So when the first thing those people see in a Eurovision year is an unapologetic, fun, no drama song like Iceland is bringing, I think that will stick in their minds as a positive memory and an experience that they can take with them throughout the show, and hopefully they can vote for when the lines open. Now, there are obviously some reasons which people have pause about Iceland qualifying for the final, which I completely get, such as people are arguing opening the show will mean that they are forgotten by the end of every song. And on top of that, the first half is filled with some fun, quirky songs such as Estonia and Sweden, which in my own opinion are more likely to qualify for the final than Iceland. So when you look at it that way, those two songs in particular could limit the amount of votes given to Iceland. That being said, I just think that there are enough factors which means Iceland make the final, from the iconic look to the memorable theming and staging, and just they're fun, they're high energy, which is what you can sometimes need in a televote only system. Just to round off my non-qualification predictions, I have San Marino as 12th most likely and Azerbaijan as 11th most likely. Well, they are my 10 predicted qualifiers from semi-final 1, but remember, my prediction is not the correct one, it is just my prediction, although selfishly I hope I'm correct. We all like to get 10 out of 10 correct on these. But let me know down in the comments below, who do you think is going to qualify from semi-final 1? Do you think there's going to be some shock qualifiers, shock non-qualifiers? I suppose those two will go hand in hand, shush. But yeah, just in general, who do you think is going to qualify from the semi-final? My 10 will likely change after I see rehearsals later on. Just bear that in mind, so don't necessarily go back to this video if I get some wrong. Go back to a later on video, which I will make while in Basel. But yes, all that's left me to say is I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time for another video on this channel. Take care, guys.